Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Venicia and this is the Wolly Worker knitting podcast. However, today is not a podcast episode, it's just going to be a knit and chat. I have just gone on holiday for a week and I haven't posted in I think 2 weeks. So I felt like there was quite a lot to talk about and I didn't want to overwhelm myself or you by having a very chatty podcast episode. So I thought I'd get all of the chat out of the way first in this video, and then I would record a normal podcast episode next. And yeah, I think that this is going to be a good solution to just catch up with you, ease back into video making in a more relaxed way. I feel like everyone always says this, but when you don't film for a little while, you feel out of practice, and I didn't want this anxiety and out of practiceness to prevent me from making videos and for me to be putting it off. So this is my solution. I hope that you've had a really nice couple of weeks. I certainly have. The theme of this video, I thought that I would catch you up on how my holiday has been. I went to Belgium for a week. But before that, I had my birthday, my 25th birthday celebrations, and then just before that, we had a knit night that I organised. So I wanted to also talk about that. I also want to give the result of the giveaway I hosted in the last episode, who is going to receive some yarn and a pattern, but I'll get into that. Also, I'm very sorry if I'm not looking at the camera as much. Firstly, I am knitting, and I find it quite hard to knit and not look at it, even though I should be able to by this point. And also, I don't know if you've noticed, but in my latest video I've actually got a new setup, and I guess I can just mention that now. So I used to always film on my phone in the front facing camera, and I could see myself in the viewfinder, and I've decided to try using my back camera of the phone, which is supposed to be better quality, of course. And the problem with doing that is that I can't see myself, so that's definitely a bit more challenging, especially if I'm showing yarns, because I don't know if you're going to see them. But I thought it could be better, so we're just trying it out. Didn't have to invest in a new camera or anything, it's just flipping the phone over. However, I did invest in a microphone, nothing fancy, just a microphone to make the sound quality better. And I don't know if you could tell, but I definitely could. While I was editing the video, I was blown away by how crisp the sound was and how much background noise I was able to eliminate by doing that. So I'm really happy with that. And it doesn't take too much time to set up and edit, so I haven't made life that much harder for myself, which was always the worry. Because I want these videos to be fun for me to make, and obviously fun for you to enjoy and watch. And if I'm not having fun, I don't think that you're going to be having that much fun either. And if I put all of those hurdles in front of myself, like a very complicated setup, a very long editing time, I'm just not going to want to make these videos. So I'm very conscious of trying to stay simple while keeping the quality of my videos high, or at least to a standard that I'm happy with. For example, putting B-roll is always going to be very important to me. Putting like cards of the patterns that I'm mentioning and text underneath, and having a very detailed description, that's always very important to me. And it is more effort, but the pros and cons of including that or not including it, I've weighed, and I'm wanting to include those. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to share a little bit about that decision making. So let me know if you've noticed the sound quality differ between my previous videos and the last couple ones, and whether you are noticing this camera being better, or if the front camera was just fine and I can revert back to my previous setup. So I guess that was the first thing. The second thing I'll just talk about is what I'm wearing. I'm wearing one of my latest finished garments. This is my yet untitled test knit for Iris Makes on Instagram and also on YouTube, and this is a cabled vest. A lot of you have reached out to say that it's a great vest, and I really agree. The pattern is absolutely stunning. It's got like a really nice symmetrical 3 different cables organized, a v-neck. It's made in a very beautiful yarn. It's the fiber company Lore, which is 100% lamb's wool, and it's woolen spun. They've got a really great color selection. I think I shared in the past video that I wasn't completely sure about this color, but a lot of you said that it looked gorgeous, so thank you so much for the reassurance on that. And I had so much fun knitting this. I had so much fun knitting with this yarn in particular that I thought I would share the joy and give away enough yarn to make this if you're in one of the smaller sizes and you're not afraid to play a bit of yarn chicken. So this only took me 2 skeins of yarn, so I am giving away 2 skeins of this lovely yarn. I hope that the camera is going to be showing this. And I opened this giveaway a couple weeks ago. I've picked the winner, and yeah, I'm pleased to say that the winner is Patricia Lieb 6565. I'll be putting the name and the comment here on screen. If this is you, then please get in touch with me either by email, Instagram, or Ravelry message, and we can arrange for me to send you the yarn. And also the pattern, when it comes out, it hasn't come out yet. I think Iris is aiming for an August release, so I'll be helping with that when that comes out, but we can get in touch for me to send you the yarn. Also, I know that not everyone watches those knit and chat, so I'll be also announcing that winner in the next episode. And if you don't get in touch with me by the end of the month, then I'm probably going to have to redraw a winner just so that it doesn't linger on for too long. So yeah, just get in touch with me as soon as possible, and congratulations. And to everyone who participated and didn't win, then I'm very sorry. I know that I'm definitely going to be doing more giveaways in the future because they're really fun to do. I haven't experienced any issues with them. Everyone has always gotten back in touch with me, like all the winners, and it's just, it feels nice to be nice, you know, like when you're giving something, you feel good about it. So yeah, so that's that admin out of the way. My setup camera and microphone, the giveaway winner. The next thing I want to talk about is what I'm knitting, I guess, because people might be curious. This is the Moonset Tea by Ozetta, and I am making this in the fiber company as well, but it's their Meadow yarn, which is a mix of a bunch of things. I don't have the label with me, but it's a mix of llama, merino, silk, and linen, I'm pretty sure. I don't know the exact the proportions. It's a lovely, lovely summer yarn. I love working with it. I'm doing this on 2.75mm needles, which is quite tiny. I brought this project with me to Belgium to hopefully make some progress on it. I'm working on the body right now. And I did not knit a single row of that because I also brought a pair of socks. Like I just cast on the cuff of one. And I made a sock in Belgium, and I didn't make anything else. So no progress was done on this, sadly. I think the last time I showed it was on the podcast a couple weeks ago. So I've just picked this up for this knit and chat because it's mostly stockinette. I've added a faux pearl seam on both sides. So every round there's 2 pearl stitches that I've got to do. So I really hope that I don't mess these up and forget to do them, but it should be fine because I put a stitch marker just before them. I still wasn't even sure whether I wanted to keep the pearl seam. I thought it looked quite messy, but that was when I only had like an inch or so of the body done, like after the underarm. So it didn't look like much, but I'm hoping that if I do, you know, like 5 inches of body, it'll look like something more, especially after I pick up the sleeves, for example, and it looks even more like the final product. I know that worst case scenario, I can unravel that pearl stitch and then with a crochet hook, you know, pick it back up into a knitted stitch, but the tension is going to be all affected, especially in this yarn. I'm working on this with metal needles, and it's not too slippery. Let's talk about things in chronological order then. I'll talk about the knit night, and then my birthday quickly, and then my trip to Belgium. I always feel a bit nervous filming those because there's no structure. I guess this one has a bit more structure than my previous ones because I've got things I want to talk about. I just hope that those are enjoyable to watch. I usually keep the podcast very much knitting related and not as much Venetia related. I don't go too much into my personal life or personal thoughts or like personality, I guess. Like, of course it's gonna come through in some ways when I talk about knitting, but I just feel like, yeah, I don't know if people enjoy those knit and chats. I know that they are less popular than the podcast episodes, but they definitely do get some views. So if you're watching this and you enjoy knit and chats, then great, thanks. That's good to know that you're wanting to know more about me, I guess. So the knit night, that was a great success. I organized it to celebrate a couple of milestones. I wanted to celebrate my birthday, which was the next day, to celebrate the 6-month anniversary of the channel. My birthday's on the 2nd of July. I posted my first video on the 2nd of January, so half a year. And then I also wanted to celebrate 4,000 subscribers, which is a great milestone that I didn't expect to reach in 6 months. And I was just really feeling like happy and in a celebratory mood. And I also wanted to do something more than post videos, because we always talk about the knitting community, and sometimes it feels like I'm just alone in my room talking to my phone and then pressing a button to put it online. And it doesn't feel like a community per se. But, you know, the comments, replying to comments, people who message me when I post things on my stories on Instagram, like people who reply to my stories, I love that so much. Like, I'm always really happy to have a chat. Although, having said that, I also want to say that sometimes I'm actually not in the mood to talk, or I have a lot going on, or, you know, I get too many messages, and Instagram is not very good at, like, visually seeing what's new and what I haven't responded to. So I really hope no one takes it personally if I, like, stop replying or don't reply to your messages. I definitely try and, like, heart react messages to show that I've read them. But I'm really sorry if we ever started talking and then I stopped talking. It's just the way that I can manage this and chatting to a lot of people on a day-to-day or like week-to-week basis. But I hope that doesn't discourage you from messaging me. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? I want people to reach out and message me and talk to me, but I also don't want to be held to a standard where I have to have in-depth conversations with dozens of people every week. So yeah, there's something about those relationships online, right? It's great to make them, but it's also not something that you do in real life where you would necessarily talk to so many people. So me wanting to organize a knit night was also something to do with that, with me wanting to make this more of a two-way street instead of just a one-way street of me talking and no one replying. So I thought we could have some great discussions about knitting and, you know, people asking questions, people answering them, opinions being shared, and also just even something to be put on in the background, because I said to people there was no pressure if you signed up to the knit night that you'd have to talk or share anything. You could just put your camera off, your microphone off, and just like sit and listen to people. And I think a few people did that, because in the end there were about 25 people at the knit night, or like 28. Some people didn't stay the whole 2 hours, and out of those 25 people, I know that a few of them like just like didn't interact as much as other people, which is so fine and completely fine. So if that was you, if you were worried about coming to the knit night because you were worried you were going to have to speak, don't worry, you don't have to. I know a lot of people were sad to have missed it, or it wasn't a time that was suitable, and I do want to say that I intend to organize another one. I don't know when yet, and I don't think it will be this summer, maybe in autumn. Maybe that could be like a quarterly thing, although I don't want to commit to any sort of time schedule. But I basically want this to not have just been a one-off, because the feedback was really great. Thank you so much. Again, if you were at the knit night, then hello. Thanks for watching this knit and chat. It was so great to have you. We had quite a lot of podcasters on there, which was really nice. All levels of, I guess, like seniority or yeah, I guess, yeah. So like new podcasters, older podcasters, and it was really great. I didn't know there were going to be so many. So like we all shared in the chat recommendations for podcasts or Instagrams and everything, so people could follow each other. And then we created a little group chat afterwards if people wanted to stay in touch with each other, and also to be notified of the next knit and chat. I think what I have learned from organizing my first one is that maybe it'd be easier to have someone else to partner up with and organize, just to keep, like, to manage things and stay on top of things, because as someone who did it alone, I forgot a few things and like made a few mistakes, which could have been avoided if someone had helped me out. And also, I want to cap the numbers. I think 25 was actually a really, really great number of people, and I think anything above that would have been harder to manage and maybe made the knit night less enjoyable for people. Personally, I wouldn't want to attend a knit night that had 50 people, especially if we had to then split the group. So I think next time I organize a knit night, it will have to be capped, but I'll talk about that more when I do it. It really warmed my heart to have so many people come and give good feedback and send me well wishes for my birthday. It was a great afternoon. It was quite draining though, so again, it's not something I want to do every week, certainly, but it made me really happy to be doing something collaborative in the knitting community. So other things that I want to do for the channel associated with the Wolly Worker, I guess, is I want to do more knit nights. I also was thinking of doing a live stream or a few. You know, if you watch Typical Bliss, Tiffany, she does a few of them over on YouTube. I've not actually been to any of them or watched any of them, but I know she hosts them, and that seems to be an accessible way for people to just tune in. I know there's other platforms on which you can do lives, but YouTube seems to be fine. So let me know if this is something that you'd like to see. If you don't know what a live stream is, it's kind of like me doing a knit and chat, but live, so no cuts or edits. And there's a chat function usually where people can send messages and I guess ask questions, and I can see that in real time so I can answer them. And so hopefully if enough people show up to that, it can also be a bit more interactive than a YouTube video, but less interactive than a knit and chat group, a knit night group, because you can't speak out loud yourself, but I can. Yeah, I thought that those could be quite fun and also a bit like lesser pressure, more chill, and you know, because the lesser pressure it is, the more often I can do them. Whereas if it's something that's quite hard to organize, those have to be more rare. So I was thinking of maybe organizing a knit live chat at some point. And if you have any advice or thoughts on that, please let me know. Or also let me know if you would attend that, so that I know, I have an idea if there's interest. Something else I'd want to do at some point is organize a knit along. I would really, really, really love that. Someone suggested that I do a Mary Wallen one while I was doing my previous one, my previous Mary Wallen pattern. But there's already quite a lot of those out there. I feel like my type of knit along that I would prefer is if we were all doing the same pattern. And I was thinking that maybe this could be a free pattern to make this more accessible for people. I like my knit alongs to be more precise and like specific basically than the very big vague ones. Like I don't like the knit alongs that are like, everyone make an item, you know, like I don't think that there's a point to doing that. It's just, as a person, I respond very well to like structure and rules and everything. So the more rules a knit along has, the more fun I'm gonna have, which I know is not for everyone, but this is me, this is my preference. So I would make my knit along a bit more specific, with a length of time, either a pattern that we're all following or something a bit more specific, like for example the striped cal that Merlene is hosting. That's a good balance, I think, between being specific, like stripes are very specific, but not everyone has to do a sweater. You could do a striped sock, for example, so that's quite still inclusive. So yeah, I want to do a knit along. I'll see when I do that, because again, I think it'd be easier for me to organize that with someone else, and also it would be really great if I could offer some prizes, which means that I'd have to reach out to people to see if they would sponsor the knit along, which I've never done before. I've not really reached out to people or brands or designers. Me asking Iris if she would donate a copy of this pattern when it comes out was my first time actually reaching out for a collaboration, and she was so kind and she said yes immediately, which was a great confidence boost, because I'd like to do the knit along and be able to offer like either a discount code on yarn or some free patterns or some free stitch markers. So there's a lot to do in the background before I get to a point where I can confidently launch one. And I still get like the imposter syndrome of, I just started this 6 months ago, no one's gonna want to give me free stuff to give away to people because I'm nobody. There's more podcasters out there that like would be better to partner with, but I know that that's just a little negative voice talking, and I know that if I put myself out there, good things can come, but if I don't put myself out there, then nothing will happen. So this is your sign. If you're waiting for one, if you want something, go and get it, make it happen. Don't just wait for things to happen. And then certainly don't make any conclusions, like don't draw conclusions that you're not worth it because no one is giving you anything, or like no one is acting the way that you want them to act towards you. Like don't interpret that as meaning that you're not worth it. It might just be because they haven't thought about it, but if you ask, they'll do it. Bit of a tangent. So yeah, I guess those things are the things that I want to do for the channel. I also want to create a Ravelry group because that could be a great way to organize the knit along there as well as on Instagram, because I know that not everyone likes Instagram for knit alongs. I don't. I prefer the Ravelry groups. And I know that not everyone prefers Ravelry, and some people cannot access Ravelry. So if I did a knit along, I would organize it on both Ravelry and Instagram. And I think it'd be better for organization if I already had a lot of people in my Ravelry group that I would create, like populate it first, and then announce a cal. So I'll certainly be setting up a Ravelry group soon. Keep an eye out, and yeah, let me know if you have any ideas of what we could do in the Ravelry group, because that could be a great way for me to announce the lives and the knit nights in the Ravelry group. This is where we could do like the knit along. Maybe we could do a thread where we all share like tips or like pattern ideas that we like. I don't know. This could be as active or as inactive as we want it to be. It could just be a group that we use as and when needed. It doesn't have to be something that like you need to go on every day to see what people have said. I know like there's a new social media right now that's been created by the people at Instagram. It's called Threads, which is funny because a lot of knitters were like, oh, is this a crafty social media? But it's not. It's like threads of text basically, which is very disappointing. But I am not excited about it at all, because to me it just feels like one more app, one more social media, one more chore to add on the daily list of what do I need to check on my phone today. And as a content creator as well, like I'm not a pattern designer or a yarn dyer, but I feel like for them there must be even more of a pressure to go on there, like set up a presence in case they miss out on potential, you know, reach and engagement and viewers and sales. And they've got to go and try and grow big on there as well as on Instagram and other platforms. It just seems very exhausting to have to always keep up with the newest social media. And life was just simpler back in the days, I say, with my 25 years of age, when you just had like Facebook. But anyway. So that's my plans for making my channel a bit more social and interactive. I hope that you're excited about this. I am. The only problem is going to be like getting the motivation to actually do all those things without burning out, and whilst also keeping a consistent-ish YouTube presence. I know that I've not posted in 2 weeks, which is very unlike me, and I don't know if the YouTube gods are going to be punishing me for this, or if I will be rewarded for coming back. Not that it matters too much, but you can't really help it to be happy when a video does well, and to be disappointed when a video doesn't. To be perfectly honest, like I don't think that that's something I cannot feel, but I'm able to not let it affect my day. It's just the initial feeling when YouTube tells you, oh no, this video is not doing as good as usual. What went wrong? Like it literally tells you that on the front page. It's hard not to take it personally, you know, you're like, well, I tried my best to make a good video. I don't know why it's not doing well. And YouTube doesn't really help you. It just tells you, well, we're not going to show it to more people because not as many people are clicking on it as usual. Which is not necessarily the reason why I make videos, is not to get the most views, but I certainly make videos because I want them to be watched by people. Like, that's the point, right? If I wanted to just document my knitting, I'd record those videos and then I wouldn't post them, I'd keep them on my hard drive. But I do want people to see this, so I'm posting it on the internet. So it's a little disappointing when people don't watch it. But it's annoying when it's not necessarily correlated with the quality of your output. I guess same as pattern designers, you know, when they're putting out a pattern, they may have worked so hard on it for a year or more, and they could get a cold reaction, a cold reception, just not do very well because of a multitude of factors. Like, it could just not be a good month of the year to release a pattern, or a lot of other patterns were released at the same time and there's only so many patterns people are going to buy or knit at one time. Or like the algorithm, YouTube or Instagram or Ravelry just might not be working your way and the pattern may fly under the radar, and then after 2 weeks it's kind of too late to reboost it. I feel like it's kind of the same thing on YouTube or Instagram, where I could post a really good photo but no one is gonna really see it, and it's gonna make me feel bad about my photography skills, even though like at first I was happy about that photo. So for YouTube there were a couple of videos that I was really happy about and like excited and proud of, and it didn't do really well for unknown reasons. So of course you can ask yourself, is it because it was a bad video, or is it because it just didn't work out for a combination of reasons outside of my control? And I prefer to believe it's the second one, so I tell myself, it's out of my control, I did what I had to do, like I did what I wanted to do, and it didn't work out, and that's fine, we just move on to the next video. So yeah, I don't know really what was my point of saying all that. I guess while we're still on the topic of the channel, there's a few things I guess I want to share with you about like where I see this going and what I want to do. Oh, my computer just crashed, so my microphone stopped working, so I'll come back in a bit. Okay, sorry about that. My computer crashed and my microphone is connected to the computer. So I don't know if the first half of this video is gonna have the sound, because I don't know if that sound's saved, but hopefully it doesn't crash by the end of this. So yeah, I don't quite remember where I was. I think I was talking about the future of the channel. I have a lot of plans, so I'll tell you a bit of what you can expect from me over the course of the year, I guess. Not making any promises, it all depends on whether I keep that motivation and whether those videos are doable or not. A lot of them are a little bit ambitious because they need to be filmed over the course of some time, or the editing will be trickier than usual podcasts, but I really want to be making those videos. So I've got a little notebook here and I'll be telling you some title ideas and you can get an idea of what those are going to be. So I'm thinking of doing a video on finishing techniques, like a little compilation, and maybe film tutorials to like showcase what I'm talking about while I do them. Some pattern roundups like 10 fingering weight sweaters, 10 sweater vests, 10 dresses, 10 boyfriend husband sweaters, men sweaters I guess. I want to showcase my Excel knitting spreadsheet where I track a lot of knitting related stats, so I need to find a way to talk about this and demonstrate it in a way that is enjoyable for the viewer and allows me to show exactly what I want to show and talk about it in the way I want to talk about it. So that I've been wanting to show this for ages, but it's difficult to wrap my head around how to talk about it. Then how I pick my colors, how I pick patterns, knitting sock challenge, wearing my knits for a week, knitting gift ideas for Christmas, gift guide for knitters, so gifts for us that we want to receive, some dupes for some patterns that you can find in those like Send This Garn booklets. I have 3 of the booklets and some of them are quite similar to sweaters I've already seen on Ravelry. Not accusing anyone of anything, it's just it's hard to make 500 different variations, like, of a raglan sweater. So yeah, just some dupes if you don't have the booklets available to you. And same as like finding patterns for store items, so like going on H&M or Hollister or whatever, like finding some street wear knitwear and then finding the patterns to do it, because I don't know about you, but I've been completely corrupted by knitting, wherein if I go in a shop nowadays and I see, it used to be just sweaters, but even now when I'm seeing camisoles out, I'm like, oh, that's camisole number 9, or ooh, that's the twist loop top. And I just have this like gift now that I can immediately tell what pattern would recreate an item that I see in the street, which, my mind is broken. Then I want to do a little knitting quiz on my boyfriend. I think it'd be really fun to test his knowledge because he knows so much about knitting. He's like a sponge. He really does listen and remembers things that I talk about, so I think he's going to do better than people expect at a knitting quiz. I think it'd be fun. It'd be cute. Some Ravelry tips. I know I've been teasing that on my Instagram. I really want to showcase Ravelry and its wonderful possibilities and teach people a trick or two. So I want to film a video on Ravelry. But again, it's just a bit tricky to edit and film. Patterns for scraps, so things that require less than one skein of yarn. And also patterns for hand-dyed yarn. That's going to be coming, I hope, quite soon, or like I'm going to start filming for that soon, because I've acquired a bit of hand-dyed yarn recently and I've been accumulating it for a year, so I really want to share what my ideas are for that, and I've done a lot of research on how to maximize those hand-dyed skeins, trying to buy as little as possible because they're pricey, but still get garments out of it, so like yardage-friendly garments to not buy too much hand-dyed yarn. I think that could be quite fun and people would want to know. And accessories, free patterns. I want to maybe do more project diaries, like pattern reviews in depth, so like filming myself documenting a knit from start to finish again. I had done that with the Loli shawl, and this is one of the videos I was talking about earlier where it wasn't actually that successful and not many people watched it, and it was quite a lot of work. So it was a bit demoralizing and discouraging for me to try and do a whole project diary on a sweater, because that'd be much harder to edit and it would take longer. And I don't know if people are going to want to see that then, if they didn't want to see the shawl one, but maybe it's unfair for me to expect a lot of views for an accessory, and maybe a garment people would be more likely to want to watch. But I think it could be great to have that space to go into so much depth about a project from start to finish and really talk at length about the pattern and the review of that pattern and the yarn, I guess, and just give all my thoughts. So I want to do that, and then also review, like, my 5 favorite sweaters, my favorite summer knits, comparing, like, the sweaters I've done in expensive yarn compared to the ones I've done in cheap yarns. Like, were the expensive yarns worth it? What sweaters do I wear the most? So kind of like discussing things that I've done in the past already and like taking inventory and summarizing that instead of focusing on like all the future knits, because I don't want to just do a knit, talk about it on the podcast, and then never talk about it again and forget about it. Like, I want to still keep my past knits at the forefront of my mind and to let you know that I wear them. And if I don't wear them, I want to tell you that too. And I think that's kind of it. So very broadly, that's the kind of videos that I have in mind. If you're a knitting podcaster and that was inspiring, feel free to copy this and make those videos before I do. That's fine. I'd love to see other people's knitting videos. I really like watching knitting podcasts, but I also really like those extra videos that aren't podcasts. So sure, pattern roundups, like spring, summer inspiration, I do really like those. And I'd love to see more project diaries on projects that I intend to make, because I just want to absorb all that knowledge before I jump headfirst into it. I also love to see more talk about the knitting math and things like that. Also, I want to maybe make a video on, like knitting math advice, like how to find your perfect sock formula how to use gauge to your advantage and like choose a different size to get the measurements that you want, because a lot of people are a bit daunted by that, especially beginners, but I want to provide a resource for people. So yeah, that's all of that. But of course I'll be doing the podcast regularly. I think the schedule that works for me is like every other week. And then what I like to do is then the opposite week I do a one-off video like the ones I've just mentioned. But because some of those videos are really big and ambitious, like I said, I don't think that I'll be able to do a weekly video like that if I want the videos to be of good quality. So yeah, that's what you can expect. I hope that this interests you, or that you're looking forward to seeing those videos. I'm really looking forward to making them. I think now I'll just then talk about... Yeah, I'll talk about my trip to Belgium and the yarn I got there, and then I will... So because I actually have yarn with me, I'll put down my knitting and I'll show you what I got. So the first thing is my friend Sam has made me a project bag that is here. She sewed it herself, and she also gifted me some yarn that I will put a photo of here on screen because I don't have it with me here. And I was just so grateful, feel really lucky. Thank you so much, Sam. And I took it to Belgium, and it was holding my sock yarn and my sock. It was really good for that. And yeah, it was a perfect gift at the perfect time. It's Sam from the Shugly Stitch, by the way. She's got a podcast as well. So that was great. And then my boyfriend's mother gifted me another project bag, which like I had sort of asked for, from the Fiber Fox. It's they're a yarn dyer and project bag maker. This is a bucket bag, so you put the yarn at the bottom, and then you've got this like drawstring. And it's a really lovely, I guess, autumnal fabric, like purples, oranges, with little woodland creatures. There's a squirrel, a deer. It's really, really lovely. I had put the moonset tea in this bag and took it to Belgium, but I never used it. So this is the medium size, I would say, I think, and I think it could comfortably hold the beginning of a sweater, at least like an entire summer garment for sure, a summer t-shirt, maybe a lightweight jumper, like a fingering weight jumper. And yeah, super, super happy with that. I can totally foresee myself using it because I usually make more sweaters than socks. Then my absolute trooper of a boyfriend got me a set of the Chayogu interchangeable needles, the bamboo set, which is so perfect for all those summer projects that I want to do. So those are the needles, you can see. Yeah, it's got needles from 275mm to 5mm. It doesn't have a pair of 3mm needles, like it doesn't come with them. But my boyfriend so thoughtfully bought them to go with that, and he placed them in the gift so that I'd have a complete set, which is so adorable of him, and he understands, like, it's very important to have 3mm needles. So thank you so much. And he also, so in the set, there's cables, and this is not the classic red cable that you know from Chayogu. This is the spin cable that comes with the bamboo, and it's a twisting, spinning cable. With the Chayogu needle, sometimes you have the issue where if you knit a lot, the needles can untwist themselves. But with a spin cable, that doesn't happen because the cable is what spins instead of like the whole needle together. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but you probably know what I'm talking about. And I think it's so very important to have this cable that twists with the bamboo needles, because I'd be more worried about them snapping and breaking if I put too much pressure, whereas the cable spinning takes away that pressure. And at first I thought I wouldn't like it in the sense that everything would be moving around and I could feel things moving, but I don't at all. When I'm knitting, I don't realize that the cable is swiveling and turning, so that's perfect. I've done just a little baby swatch with the bamboo needles, and it was really weird and hard to get used to. I used Pure Silk by Knitting for Olive and used the bamboo needles, and yeah, the friction increased tenfold compared to the metal needles, which is a good thing, but not what I would be used to. I'm used to everything slipping completely crazily on my metal needles. And I'm just so happy to have both options now, and I'm looking forward to using the bamboo needles for my summer knits. I'm so happy. So that was my knitting gifts from people close to me. And then I went to Belgium and I actually met a knitting friend that I've met here like on YouTube and Instagram, Melissa from MB Makes, here on YouTube and Instagram. And she so kindly gifted me a couple goodies from Ginger and Thyme, and it's some stitch like cable holders. There's 2 of 20 inches, I think, and it goes up to 4.5 millimeter needles, which is perfect. So thank you so much, Melissa, that's so handy. And then she got me those needle stoppers in the most beautiful like white, blue and yellow like little flowers. It's so pretty, and I'm gonna feel so aesthetic having those on my needles. Those are like my colors, this is perfect. So I'm really happy about all of that. And then I got some like money from my parents and my grandparents, and so I used that on a French website for yarn, Laine et Tricot. And then I got that delivered in Belgium, and then I took it all back with me. So that was my grandparents' and parents' way of gifting me yarn, which is, it's so great because I could choose everything that I wanted. So I'll quickly show you all of that and tell you the plans I have for this yarn. And I hope that's interesting, and I really hope that I get to make all of these. I got quite a lot of knitting for Olive because it was much cheaper than getting it in the UK, so that's good. So the first thing I got is some Midnight Soul by Camarosa in this like grey colour, 9502. And this is to go with some Drops Air I had in stash. So here's the Drops Air. And this is just going to be hopefully getting me gauge, like a big chunky gauge, to make either the Novice cardigan by Petite Knit or the cardigan number 7 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. They're just very simple cardigans, like round neck that go all the way up. Neither of them have short rows, but I'll be adding some short rows to help with that. And I wanted to use an alternative to mohair, which is why I chose Midnight Soul. I guess this is another video that I intend to make at some point, is a comparison of the mohair alternatives. So stay tuned for that. I want to be, you know, I want to try them all, basically, before I can give an honest review and give my favorite alternative. Right now, I'd say it's either like Surrey alpaca, like brushed Surrey alpaca, or a strand of thin alpaca. I really like that. But I want to be trying that Midnight Soul mohair free. So speaking of alternatives, I got this Holsgarn Titicaca, which is a second strand of 100% lace alpaca. This is the color Emerald, and I want to be making a Forest Berry pullover by Sari Nordland, which is originally like orange, but I want to make a blue, green, turquoise version, and this is very green, I know. The color I intend to hold this with is Holsgarn Super Soft in Kingfisher Blue, which is a bluish green, and I hope that it tunes this down because this is a little too bright for my taste. But according to some photos I've seen on Ravelry of people holding this with something else, I think it's going to be great and bluer, which is the point. So I look forward to trying this again, mohair alternative, and to make this beautiful, beautiful sweater. I can't wait to make it. I got some Co-op Croup Knits socks, yeah. This is a sock yarn that I've not tried yet, but I've heard really good reviews of. This is the Jade colorway. They've got all those color names based on stones, precious stones, gemstones. And it's a superwash merino nylon blend, and apparently it's really, really soft. It is definitely like soft and drapey. I mean, look at that. This is so drapey. A little annoying that it comes in like hanks like that, and you've got to buy 2 because one is 50 grams? Yeah. And you probably definitely need 100, I think. I have smaller feet, I guess, so maybe I could just use one skein and use contrast heel cuff and toe. But yeah, I just thought I wanted to try this different sock yarn because I'm also on a mission to try all the different sock yarns. Got some BC Garn Bio Balance in this beautiful, beautiful color, color 11. It's this like silverish, bluish grey, which if you know me, that's one of my favorite types, is like bluish greys. And this is 55% wool, 45 cotton. So it's kind of like the cotton merino by Knitting for Olive, although I think that one has a higher cotton percentage, the Knitting for Olive. But this is great. I really want to try this yarn. I've mentioned it before that it's one of the summer yarns I want to try because it doesn't really feel cottony as far as I can tell, and it's going to behave like wool for a lot, for what matters. So this is going to be for a Mellow Tea by Wise Knits. Got some Knitting for Olive in the colorway Coal. I got four skeins. I am not 100% sure what I want to do with it yet. It might become a cumulus tea, like a very nice silky black tea, or I might just wait until next year when new summer patterns come out and a black pattern, like and then a very neutral like force kind of pure silk pattern comes out and I can use this black. I really want to use this black silk. It's going to be great, but I don't know what I want to commit to just yet. But it might just be a cumulus tea if all else fails, because I've heard amazing things about this pattern and the fit and the depth of the v-neck and everything, so maybe I don't need to look too far because it's been right in front of me the whole time. Then I got Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in Haze, which is going to be a Sari Northern pattern. Again, the Haze, no, this is the Haze colorway. I'm going to make the Kutar top, and I've actually already swatched for that, so this might be very, very soon casted on. Maybe even before the next podcast episode, because I'm really eager. So yeah, I'm looking forward to using that. It's like an off-white grey. I'd say it's more grey than white. It's a very, very light grey. And it's totally up my street. It's definitely, you know, greyer than this is blue. Like, whereas I think this is called silver, which implies grey on the website. But yeah, when you see them next to each other, this is definitely a true neutral grey. And then speaking of grey, I've got this Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in Grey Lamb. I'm so excited about this. I love grey. It's my favorite neutral, favorite color. I love all the shades of grey. Like, I can't wait to have all those different, like, subtler, darker and lighter shades garments. I know that I will wear those, like, forever. As much as I like doing things in different colors, I know that grey is what I basically wear daily with my other clothes. And Cotton Merino, I want to make a t-shirt. I think this is going to be for the Air Tea by Ozetta. The original was in her yarn, which is also a Cotton Merino, Saona, but by Wool Dreamers, but I wanted to use this one. So yeah, Grey Lamb is a beautiful grey. I think sometimes it almost tinges on green or purple, like depending on the light, if you can see on Ravelry, other people's projects. So I'm really excited about that one. I don't know if I'll have time to cast this t-shirt on by the end of summer, but this could also be a very nice piece for winter and autumn and spring. So there's no reason why I couldn't be doing this later on in the year. And then lastly, I got some mohair from Knitting for Olive in a very boring color. This is Cloud, which Knitting for Olive on Instagram, they've got this post where they have all of their whites and off-whites mohairs next to each other, so you can see like which one is yellower, bluer, pinker. So this Cloud, I wanted it to be basically an off-white. I think they have a Snowflake one, which is like pure white, and Cloud is a bit more off-white. 70% mohair, 30% silk, cruelty-free silk as well. And I'm happy with it. I got it because I wanted to get rid of some stash yarn that I've got. It's a Knitting for Olive Merino in powder, which at first I liked for a camisole, like that was the plan, but I realized it's way too close to my skin color and too beige and too pale and pink, and it's really not my color for like a summer garment that I'll be wearing nothing else with. But I wanted to hold this together, and looking at it, I think this is a bit too white. I could have gotten the mohair in powder to get a perfect match, but I kind of wanted some marling because I think that those are very fun to work with and more interesting than buying two shades of the same mohair and merino. So on purpose I got something a little lighter. I could have gone with like mushroom rose that I've seen people combine the powder with, but I'm less of a fan of the rose and pinks and more of a fan of beige and white. So I wanted to remove a bit of the pink from this and make it beiger and whiter, which is why I chose this white. And I'm going to make camisole, no, not camisole, vest number 8, vest number 5, by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I'll be putting the title on screen anyway, which is kind of like camisole number 8 with the cables, but it's a winter vest instead, with buttons and DK weight instead of fingering, so that's exciting. And I really like vests, I really like cables. It's going to be nice to be wearing over shirts anyway, so it's not like the mohair is going to be itchy. I know that I can wear mohair on my vests, no problem at all, and the vests I wear the most actually have mohair. So I'm really looking forward to making this cabled vest. It's going to be really fun to work on in autumn, and I'm happy that I found something to use up this yarn that was in my stash, because I had fallen out of love with it. This color is just, again, I bought it because of Instagram, and I realized I don't like this powder shade. So yeah, happy with that. And that's about it. I know it was quite a lot. I definitely feel very grateful. Yarn was definitely cheaper over there in France and Belgium than it was in the UK, so I was able to get more with the money I had compared to what I could have gotten in the UK. I had a lot of space in the suitcase to come back with this yarn. And something else that I'll just quickly mention then is I was able to bring some knitting with me, like knitted items. I brought a lot of pairs of socks, and I brought my couple of camisoles, and I showed them to my grandma, who is a knitter. She doesn't knit anymore, but she has before. And I was able to show her all my knits, and she was so impressed. She was asking so many questions and was impressed by how fast I was making up my progress on my sock that I was knitting while I was there. And it was so nice to bond over this hobby and share that together. And I was really proud of my progress, and she was proud of me, and it was just such a wholesome moment. We talked about me potentially making her something. She doesn't want to, in the sense that she doesn't want me to spend time on her, which is ridiculous because it's of course with pleasure. So we've talked about an accessory possibly before making any sort of sweater, because in her mind it'll take me a year to make her a sweater, which it won't. But I also don't want, you know, I want the gift to make her happy. I don't want to burden her with a gift. So I wouldn't want to do something if she explicitly tells me not to do it. So I think an accessory will be safe, and I think I'll make her very happy if she gets one for Christmas. So hopefully that'll be something that I do this year, to thank her again so much for the wonderful gift. Yeah, to give back. So that was my little Belgium yarn haul. Actually, one more thing. I'll show a video or photo here because I can't be bothered right now to get them. But I also bought some buttons in Belgium. There was a shop, Veritas, that had this like whole wall of buttons. They were like nicely put in tubes, with the top of the tube being a button, so that you could see what the buttons were, like, and you could touch them and everything. So I went there and I just picked a bunch of different sizes. I got like 18mm, 20mm, 23 and 25. So I got that whole range of buttons in very neutral tortoiseshell, grey or brown marled buttons. Even though I don't have a plan for all of them, I know that they'll be handy. I really want to build up my button stash because I find them so annoying and so hard to buy, so it's nice to have them ready for when I need them. So yeah, this ended up being a bit of a longer knit and chat, but like I said, I'm so happy I was able to get all of this out of my head and into the open, so that I'm ready to film the next podcast episode without needing to catch back up with you. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this. It was really nice to chat again. I'm back in the mood of podcasting and talking to my phone. I hope that the sound quality was okay then, and that we didn't have that problem halfway through. Hope that you got some knitting done on whatever project you were working on. I hadn't picked my Moonset Tea project back up in a long time, so this was good for me to get out of that rut, and I think I'm going to be working on this tonight in front of the TV, and maybe put it on my new cable holder and give it the first try on to see how much length I want to go for. I think I'm going to add a bit of length, so this will be a long project. But yeah, thank you so much for spending time with me and watching this, and I'll see you all in the next podcast episode then. Bye! Happy knitting!